Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Clarkson University. I'm Tony Collins, the president here at Clarkson University. We are honored to have with us Congressman Bill Owens, who is a champion for the North Country. This is going to be an open town hall meeting focused on the farm bill that's up for reauthorization. The session is going to be moderated by the League of Women Voters, and Sue Seipert is the chairperson. And I would like to welcome Sue back as an alumnus in all full transparency. So thank you for coming back, Sue, to campus. We won't say, it was perhaps a couple of decades ago.
We won't get into
that. We won't get into that. But certainly welcome back to campus. And for those that are first-time visitors to campus, even though the weather is a fraction inclement, please take an opportunity to walk around our beautiful campus and have a look at it. And I'm sure you'll run into many of our students who are now wide awake on a Saturday morning, waiting to welcome and greet you all over campus. So with that, I will say that I'm particularly interested personally in listening to this morning's session. As many of you know, the governor reached out and asked me to co-chair one of the 10 economic development regions. So myself and Gary Douglas from Plattsburgh co-chair this region. There's a council meeting right in this room next week, Tuesday. There's a public session to that. We certainly welcome always public input to those sessions. We were very fortunate, and we were identified as one of the best strategic plans, in December, and I know there are recipients of some of the grant money in the audience. One thing that people often forget when you think of economic development is the role of agriculture. It is a massive industry in New York State, and it is a massive industry in our region. And so I will be myself listening carefully to the session this morning to get input to take it to our regional economic development activity. And I encourage you, if that's your interest, and I presume that's why you're here today, please think of attending any of our Economic Development Council sessions that run every couple of months. That's a long introduction, so welcome Congressman Owens, and
Thank you, Tony.
Sue, I'll hand it now to you. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you, President Collins. Good morning. I'm Sue Seipert, the chair of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the sponsors of today's program. On behalf of the League, I want to thank Congressman Owens, Clarkson University, the civic partners, and all of you for making the event today possible. Your coming out, especially on today, is certainly a very, very dedicated effort on your part. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to aiding and educating voters. We encourage active participation in the affairs of our communities and believe open and civil discussion of issues should happen as often as possible. The League believes communication between citizens and elected officials should be civil, vibrant, and robust, hence events like this. The League is open to men and women. There are brochures at the entrance. Please take one and consider becoming part of our work or join in the work of one or more of the partners for today's event. Okay, so that's the advertisement I get to make. A special note of thanks to GardenShare for organizing the Farm Bill workshop held earlier this morning, and the participation of Patty Lovera of Food and Water Watch, and Peter Ricardo from the Food Bank of Central New York, and I know we'll be hearing from Peter in a while. Our thanks to our civic partners in today's event. They include the American Association of University Women, St. Lawrence County Branch, Clarkson University, and the Center for Excellence in Communication, the Sustainable Living Project, GardenShare, Seedcorn, the St. Lawrence and Jefferson County Cooperative Extensions, the Farm Bureau, and North Country Public Radio as media sponsor. Today's event is being recorded by both NCPR and the Clarkson Center for Excellence in Communication. The event will be broadcast next week on WCKN, and I think it's now being broadcast by NCPR, And you can check with the NCPR website or the League of Women Voters website to find out how you can access recordings of the event at any point that you would want to see it again or refer others to that. Okay. Please note that if you aren't able to speak today, though I think we will have enough time, or you have any concern, or you think of something afterwards, or you know someone who wasn't able to come to make their comment, the Congressman's office has a postal or email address there dedicated to the Farm Bill issues. So note that if you have any follow-up or have someone you would like to share that with. We ask your cooperation with a number of guidelines. First and foremost, please turn off any cell phones, or make sure we can have some quiet. The objective of today's forum is for Representative Owens to hear your ideas and concerns regarding the Farm Bill. Please be respectful throughout the event. We want everyone to be able to fully participate. Please do not interrupt or interfere when others are speaking, and no obstructions, flags, banners, standing up, that kind of thing. Those who wish to speak should approach the mic when called upon. I'll let you know ahead of time who's coming up. After you have spoken, please return to your seat, and please, when you do speak, say your name clearly for us so that we make sure we are keeping track of who's who. We will be starting today's event with specific presentations by the Cooperative Extension, the Farm Bureau, and GardenShare. And then I will be opening it up to people who have signed up. You will have 3 minutes, and I have this incredibly high-tech event, and I'm not even sure exactly what it does, but I think it's going to buzz or something. So we'll try to keep the timing under control, simply because we want to make sure everyone has their opportunity. That said, thank you for being here. Let's get started. On behalf of the organizations and citizens of St. Lawrence County, it is my honor to introduce Congressman Bill Owens.
Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today. Yesterday in Saranac Lake, I was taking credit for bringing the snow to the North Country so that people could go skiing. On my ride over here today, I was less excited about that. This is very important. The Farm Bill is one of the most important pieces of legislation we will act on this year. In our district, it is an extraordinarily high portion of our GDP. So it's very important to virtually everybody in the district in one way or another. Clearly, as we know, over the last several years, the dairy industry has been hit very hard. One of the major areas that's going to be focused on in the Farm Bill clearly is going to be the dairy industry. We've been going around now for several weeks trying to reach out to a variety of players in this economy, to talk to them, because there are many different views, many different needs, many different concerns. So the purpose today for me is to listen to your concerns, but also to your suggestions. One of the key pieces here is for me to be able to understand how policy affects you on the ground. Because frequently, policy established in Washington or Albany may have intended good purposes, but may be less effective when you're actually implementing it on your farm or in your community. So these are the things that I'm very interested in. Certainly, I'm very grateful to the League, to GardenShare, to Clarkson for participating and hosting this event. And I would now like to invite the first speaker to come up and make a presentation. Thank you very much.
David Fisher of the Farm Bureau, you're up.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to talk to you today about the Farm Bill. My name is David Fisher. I'm a dairy farmer and board member of New York Farm Bureau, the state's largest general farm organization. New York Farm Bureau represents nearly 30,000 family farm members, and I represent members of 4 counties in the North Country, including dairies, orchards, vegetable growers, and other specialty crop producers. I am a 3rd-generation farmer and one of the owners of Mapleview Dairy in Madrid, New York, in St. Lawrence County. We are a large family-run business. I share daily management responsibilities with my sister, 2 brothers-in-law, a son, an uncle, and my parents. Together, we milk 1,900 cows and crop 4,300 acres. We're very fortunate to have you as a member of the House Ag Committee, and you've demonstrated both a strong understanding of the needs of the ag community and a strong will to advocate on our behalf. Moving into the next Farm Bill cycle, there are several items of concern that we hope can be addressed so our national farm policies are more responsive to the types of agriculture we have here in New York. Most important to my family is dairy pricing. Dairy prices seem to be getting more and more volatile, and with time it's clear that the current system isn't working quite as well as it could. We're looking for a system that provides producers with the opportunity for price stability and transparency, although we do not support supply management programs. New York Farm Bureau supports replacing current dairy programs with a more cost-effective risk management program that would better meet our needs. But I want to caution you that if a new program does move forward, we can't be in the position of removing the old programs before USDA can implement new ones. Farms must be protected during a transition period. Additionally, the crop insurance side for dairy, the livestock gross margin insurance, is the only product farmers can use to ensure the difference between their milk price and feed costs. This could be an important risk management tool for dairies, but it's been a little ill-funded in the past years, and few farms have been able to use it. This is the only program that we might consider asking for increased funding in the next Farm Bill. Crop insurance reform is a top priority for New York Farm Bureau. As the storm disasters this fall highlighted the significant inadequacies of our current program, specialty crop farms are often very diversified, growing 30 or even 50 different crops, very few of which are eligible for insurance. This is why we're asking you to instruct USDA in the Farm Bill to research and develop crop insurance options specifically for multi-crop operations. Most specialty crops have one coverage option, the NAP, Non-Insured Assistance Program. This is essentially catastrophic coverage from USDA. But even when you lose everything, like some of our farmers did this year, it only covers about 25%. For some diversified farmers, this might not even cover their seed bill. Many of our farmers choose not to use it because the indemnity is so low and the record keeping for diversified farms can be extensive. To help remedy this, we're asking that USDA streamline the record keeping requirements for multi-crop farms and also offer a buy-up option. So if farmers wanted to cover their risk to a higher degree, they might have that choice. It is also important to ensure that the permanent disaster assistance programs like the Tree Assistance Program and the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program are preserved in this Farm Bill. The Emergency Conservation Program also proved essential for replacing conservation practices in the flood-affected areas of the state this year. As you know, New York agriculture has a strong environmental record, and our farmers are national leaders in conservation. We all know that funding will be tight in the next Farm Bill and therefore support efforts to consolidate conservation programs. However, I ask that the Ag Committee focus on funding toward the working land programs over the land retirement programs. The 2 most important conservation programs to New York farmers are the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP, which has been widely and very effectively used by the dairy industry in New York State, and the Farm and Ranchland Protection Program also. EQIP works well, and we would be concerned with any changes. It is also important to continue support for the specialty crop block grants and other research, pest management, and education provisions that increase health and profitability of our specialty crop growers. Export assistance programs like the Market Access Program provide valuable funds to New York growers organizations each year to help expand international markets. There are many other valuable programs in the Farm Bill, but I've highlighted the top priorities to protect farms in your congressional district in the state of New York. Although farm labor is not part of the Farm Bill, I have to thank you for introducing the H-2A Improvement Act to allow dairy workers access to the H-2A program. As you well know, the H-2A program is not easy to use and needs many reforms. which we hope to continue working on with you. But we appreciate your efforts to include dairy in the guest worker program that is available. I also want to thank you for your support as we push back on the U.S. Department of Labor's proposal to change the ag youth labor rules. What Department of Labor proposed would most likely prevent my own nieces and nephews from working on my family farm because we operate under an LLC. Not a single person at Department of Labor cares more about the young people in my family than I do, and the agency has far overstepped its authority in proposing these changes. Department of Labor is planning to re-propose the parental exemption at the beginning of the summer, but we don't have any indication that changes will really address the needs of farmers. So I ask that you be vigilant in monitoring the issue and continue to pressure Department of Labor to reconsider these unnecessary changes. I appreciate your time today and all of your work on behalf of the New York farmers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, Kevin Jordan, Cooperative Extension, Jefferson County.
Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
Thank you for giving this this opportunity. I also want to take a minute and thank President Collins and Sue Seibert, an old friend from about 25 years ago. We need to get reacquainted, and for co-hosting this event this morning. I'm Kevin Jordan. I'm the Executive Director of Cornell Cooperative Extension in Jefferson County. I'm here with my colleague. This is Michelle Ledoux from Lewis County. We're here representing the North Country region for the extension system as well as statewide. Most people know Cornell Cooperative Extension because of our presence in the community, but not everyone realizes that Cornell Cooperative Extension has a stake in the Farm Bill. Cornell University is New York State's land-grant university, founded nearly 150 years ago, as an institution where anybody can find instruction in any study. Cornell Cooperative Extension just celebrated its centennial as the outreach arm of the university. Our mission statement says it best. The Cornell Cooperative Extension educational system enables people to improve their lives and communities through partnerships that put experience and research-based knowledge to work. Cornell Cooperative Extension is part of a nationwide network of cooperative extension programs established by the Smith-Lever Act in 1914. We've evolved over time and have gone from primarily programs focused on farms and rural families to 5 broad areas: agricultural and food systems, children, youth, and families, community and economic vitality, environment and natural resources, nutrition and health. The extension system network includes 200+ faculty on campus, 55 extension associations across the state, 1,400 full-time staff, including 500 extension educators across counties, New York City, and a vast statewide network of volunteers. We had 47,200 volunteers contribute over 1 million hours last year. It's safe to say that we cannot run our programs without them. Through our efforts in 2001, 1.8 million individuals participated in one of Cornell Cooperative Extension's education programs, while millions more were reached through our website, media, public displays at places like the state and county fairs. Support for Cornell Cooperative Extension comes from many different sources: federal Smith-Lever funds, New York State appropriations, individual county budgets, grants, contracts, program fees, and philanthropy. Through our federal Smith-Lever appropriation, it makes up 12% of Cornell Cooperative Extension System's overall budget, but those funds provide the backbone of support for all of our programs and are the reason we're here today. The U.S. Department of Agriculture provides capacity funding for the cooperative research and extension programs at land-grant universities. These funds are distributed according to formula that takes into account a state's farm and rural population. States are required to provide at least a dollar-for-dollar match with New York State, which New York State does for extension through County Law 224. Those formula funds have been reauthorized as part of the research title in every farm bill since 1977. There have been attempts in recent years to eliminate or cut back formula-based capacity programs for research and extension in favor of more competitive sources of funding. I hope that you will resist these efforts and work to strike the right balance between capacity and competitive. Formula-based programs, Smith-Lever for extension, and hatch funding for research provide a stable and important source of core funding for the activities of Cornell Cooperative Extension and our partners at Cornell, including their agriculture experimental stations. We know that Cornell Cooperative Extension is very competitive, system-wide. The largest share of our budget comes from grants and contracts. The same is true for Cornell. But when you break those numbers down on a county-by-county basis and factor in the severe budget challenges of the past several years, it's clear that our system would be much less effective without the Smith-Lever funding at its core. We know that the federal government is facing its own budget challenges and that you have to make difficult decisions when you write the Farm Bill. As you move forward, I urge you, Congressman, to consider the real impact of Cornell Cooperative Extension in the North Country and across New York State, and respectfully request that you work to preserve and reauthorize the formula-based capacity programs in the research title. Thank you for the time.
Thank you very much. Something I forgot to say at the beginning was, if you've got written comments, as the first two speakers did, if those could be emailed to my office, and Steve Hunt, who will raise his hand on the side, will give you a card, that would be very helpful, because it'll give us an opportunity to reread the comments as we go down the road and we get into the Farm Bill.
All right, Aviva Gold from GardenShare.
Hi. Thank you so much, Congressman Owens, for coming here and listening to us today. I'm Aviva Gold. I'm Executive Director of GardenShare. We're a nonprofit organization working to end hunger and strengthen the local food system here in the North Country. It's great to know that you've signed on to Congressman Shelley Pingree's Local Food Farms and Jobs Act. We hope to see you support the key provisions of that throughout the Farm Bill process, especially the improving credit and grant access to farmers producing for local markets, eliminating the organic premium surcharge from the RMA, increasing funding for local marketing and the specialty crop block grants programs, expanding federal agricultural research, which you just heard about, to include more local and regional data, and more federal support for agricultural infrastructure like local distribution or processing facilities. And on the nutrition side, it would be fabulous if the SNAP program could be strengthened to help improve the diets of families relying on these benefits, maybe to find ways to incentivize purchasing of fresh produce or kitchen staple items that don't have a lot of ingredients. Also continuing to improve access to SNAP benefits at farmers markets and other local fresh produce venues, like through CSAs. But really, when the cost of these programs comes up for debate in Washington, they should be seen and talked about as the economic stimulators that they actually are, and not sort of shoved aside as overly expensive entitlements or welfare. Because we all know that the money that goes into SNAP goes directly back out into our communities. The local economic multiplier for farmers markets, I've heard a lot of them, but they can be as high as 2.36. For SNAP benefits, it's $1.73. So in high poverty rural areas like ours, these are vital parts of our economic recovery. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will tell you that it's unlikely that I will be able to ignore Shelley's bill during the presentation, because she sits right next to me.
All right. The speakers I will be calling now are going to be on the 3-minute limit. The first three people had exemptions granted to them. So next, please, Ricardo, I'm sorry, from the food bank. Let me see if I can get this to work.
Congressman, thank you very much for coming and listening, and for all your work and dedication. Much appreciated. I'm from the food bank of Central New York. 11 County Food Bank based in Syracuse. One of our counties is here, St. Lawrence. We distribute about 11.5 million pounds of food a year to Emergency Food Network, which is pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters. Significant number, but it is representing pantries that may be open once or twice a week, maybe 3 times, and it helps. It is certainly not providing food every day to everyone that needs it, but it is a huge chunk. What I do is I'm a food sourcer. I deal with incoming food donations, which tries to stretch all of the benefits that we see in Title IV. So basically, I'm here just quickly to ask for your leadership and your work on certainly opposing any proposals that would cap or reduce funding, restrict eligibility, reduce benefits, or otherwise impede the access or benefit adequacy of those programs. We also have as a priority to please restore the stimulus bill funding that was used to pay for the child nutrition reauthorization, which helped with school lunch programs and the fruits and vegetables into schools, the snack program, et cetera. TFAP, or USDA Foods, of course, is huge. In our food bank alone, it represented about 28% of our distribution last year. You'll hear, I'm sure, about a TFAP trigger proposal to try and attach that to unemployment rates, so it's more efficient and it kind of follows that statistic instead of being a block number. And also, that just any policies be vigilant in listening to any policies that would protect these benefits and eligibility, but improve efficiency. I think there's room to do that. And that's a brief statement for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I think I've got the technology worked out now, so let's try that. And Mr. Bob Zufel from Lisbon.
Hello, my name is Bob Zufel. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Myself, my wife, and my 4 sons, aged 13 to 25, we operate a 100-cow organic dairy farm on approximately 750 acres in the town of Lisbon. We've been in the organic program since 2003. Foremost, I believe that organic milk needs to be treated now as a separate commodity, not related anymore to the regular conventional dairy products, dairy milk. And I believe this was established, I've never been able to find it, but I think the 1990 Farm Bill established it as a separate commodity. And the 1990 Organic Food Production Act said that it was. So that being said, I think that organic milk should be exempt from some of the things in the dairy program from the Foundation for the Future that is considered in the Farm Bill. The first thing would be the margin protection program. There's no correlation between the price of organic milk and organic feed and conventional milk and conventional feed whatsoever. There's no correlation there, so it would be no benefit to us at all. Next would be the Dairy Market Stabilization Program. This is the part where they're considering setting up a quota and things. This would be more of a barrier to organic production because organic production has been growing 10 to 15% a year for a decade or more, and it wouldn't be unfair to the organic producers industry to be held back by this quota system when the demand for organic milk and dairy products is increasing at that rate, an average of 10 to 15% a year. And now the organic dairy is approximately 6% of the dairy market. So we would be penalized again, like I said, for a problem that we really didn't create. And finally, we would feel it should be exempt from the federal milk marketing order also. That program, of course, as you know, is set up to help farmers through difficult times, financial times they have occasionally. However, all the money that's paid into that pool, organic processors have to pay into that pool, but we get no benefit from it whatsoever from that program. There's probably tens of millions of dollars that have been put into that program And like I say, the conventional dairy industry gets the benefit from it, and the organic doesn't. The organic price is not set by any federal order. It is basically set by the marketplace. Also, as we go into the organic, paperwork is beginning to become quite a burden for the producer, especially a small producer, someone who wants to get into it. The paperwork is becoming quite burdensome. A friend of mine yesterday told me he had 132 pages front and back in his certification. It weighed 1/100th of a point less than a pound of paper he had to mail in for it. So it's becoming quite burdensome for that. And there's
if you could wrap up.
Okay. So the main thing of my point would be just for to make the organic milk a separate commodity is my main point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandy Stauffer from Lawrence.
Good morning. My name is
Morning.
Sandy Stauffer. It's good to be talking to you about ag programs, and specifically dairy again. I and my two sons and our families operate a dairy farm 20 miles east of here in Lawrenceville. I also serve as a director on the Dairy League Cooperative Board, and I am involved in several other organizations, which puts me in regular contact with other Northeast region dairy farmers as well as dairy farmers across the nation. I am here today to urge that the language and provisions similar to the 2011 Dairy Security Act be included in the upcoming Farm Bill. The National Milk Producers Association has worked painstakingly over the past several years to bring dairy farmers across the country together in a consensus on what should be included in the Act. A change to dairy policy has to be national to sit with legislators. That's just the reality. The current environment in the dairy sector is becoming very similar to what we saw leading up to the 2009 collapse. The dairy industry cannot wait for another crisis for Congress to do something to fix the broken dairy safety net. The Dairy Security Act of 2011 will provide a more effective yet lower cost safety net for dairy producers, a simplified milk marketing system for processors, and an abundant and safe food supply for consumers. And in light of what we just heard from our organic friends, I don't think the conventional dairy industry has any argument at all with treating the organic as a special organization. They are a great organization. They fill a need. While they are a niche organization, I have no argument at all with my friend from Lisbon, Bob Zufall. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandy. Andy Gilbert from Parrishville.
Morning.
My name's Andy Gilbert, and my family and I operate a 1,250 cow dairy about a mile from here. In addition to being a dairyman, I also serve on the board of Farm Credit East that serves a lot of your area, Congressman. And I also serve on the National Farm Credit Council Board, which represents Farm Credit in Washington, D.C. as our trade association. My first comments will focus on the credit title. Farm Credit is not asking for anything in this title, but there are a couple of things that we are opposed to. The first being any additional authority or any changes for Farmer Mac. And I think we've made that clear before, but we wanted to bring that up again. The second area is your committee has jurisdiction over the farm credit system, both in the House and the Senate Ag Committee also. We were specifically exempted, even though it's not part of the Farm Bill, from Dodd-Frank. Our regulator has taken Dodd-Frank as being best practice, and they've taken it upon themselves to impose certain parts of Dodd-Frank on us via regulatory mechanism, even though we had a specific exemption for the farm credit system. One of those would be pay-on-say for executive compensation. The second part of the Farm Bill that Farm Credit strongly supports is crop insurance. We realize that direct payments are probably on their way out, but we have crop insurance is a very big part of the safety net for farmers across the country that Farm Credit's borrowers just have to look at Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas and what they've suffered through and what an important role crop insurance is going to play for those producers as they try to recover from that horrendous drought. The last comment I would like to make is a comment for me personally as a dairyman, not in my role as a farm credit director. The current dairy, the dairy policy that's being proposed has provisions in it that would restrict production. It's very difficult when we participate in a worldwide market. When we restrict production, it just gives our competitors overseas more opportunity to take markets away from us, and we are seen as an unreliable international supplier. The last part of my comments on dairy is that if there's a limited amount of money, and I would personally like to see money go into export promotion and research and development of new products so we can expand the market so there's more market for all of us. And I want to also thank you for your support of farm credit. Thank you very much.
Just as an aside, and thank you. The Farm Bill is how many thousands of pages long? It's measuring.
I don't know that off the top of my head from the existing bill, but it is a very long title in the U.S. Code, and I'm sure it will be a very complex piece of legislation for us to get through. I will say that one of the nice things about the Ag Committee is that it is very bipartisan in its approach to issues, and people are very willing to share information and to help in the process of understanding the complexity that is in the bill.
I just ask that because as I look at the variety in the subjects that people have listed they want to talk about, it just is an indication of how really broad this topic is. Okay, Heather Sullivan-Caitlin from Potsdam.
I was going to say good morning, but I think we're just at noon here. Thank you for being here. My name's Heather Sullivan-Catlin, and I am a resident of Potsdam. I am also a sociologist, and I teach at SUNY Potsdam on such topics as poverty and environmental sociology. I'm also part of the GardenShare Board of Directors, in part driven by my interest in those two topics, where, as Aviva, our executive director, said, we are working on ending hunger and supporting our local food system. As you go forward in working on the Farm Bill, I'd like to urge you to consider and pay particular attention to these three areas. 1, support for infrastructure development. 2, making markets more fair and limiting agricultural monopolies. And 3, protecting nutrition programs. And I'll just say a few brief words about each. For infrastructure, we certainly have a lot of interest in institutional procurement and working with our colleges and other institutions. There's a lot of interest and a lot of demand, and we need to help address the supply issue. And the supply issue is in part due to local producers being hampered by a lack of processing and storage facilities. And so in places where the Farm Bill can address that, we certainly are encouraging support for expansion of our infrastructure for a regional food system. Secondly, I encourage you to look at ways to make markets more fair. The USDA is currently not using its antitrust enforcement powers to the extent that it should be. And the current extreme consolidation of food industries disadvantages producers and disempowers consumers. And the third area, and I must say the highest priority with our interest in poverty and hunger, is the protection to the nutrition title. First of all, we want to urge you to not move SNAP into a block grant kind of program, to keep it as a federal entitlement, and to keep it continuing at least the current funding levels. Expansion would be nice, but in this climate that might not be possible, but certainly not to be doing any cuts. It's a vital safety net, and it's a very important element of economic support for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. My apologies if I don't have your last name correctly, but Ted Wheel or Eel?
No.
No? Yeah. Talking about bees from Hammond. That much I can tell.
Congressman Owens, how are you? My name is Ted Elk.
Good to see you again.
And it is. I own the Many Flowers Honey Company, and I run approximately 70 to 100 hives of bees. We've spoken before in Saranac and most recently in Watertown on the Farm Bill. There's about 2.5 million colonies of bees in the United States, and about a third of the Americans' diet, including fruits, vegetables, dairy, meat producers from cattle, graze on flowers that are pollinated by bees. We are the poor relative of the ag industry, and the only time we're thought of is when they need pollination for apples and such, and in the fall for our honey. But we play an extremely important part in the ag process. The last I spoke to you, we had been written out of the Farm Bill in the ELAP program, and that's one of the things I'd like to see you support. We're not out of the woods yet with the recovery of bees and the colony collapse and all the things that go along with it. Research for the beekeeper is extremely important. One of the things I'll mention is one medicine that I use to control the colony collapse and nosema in my operation costs $130 a bottle and treats about 100 hives of bees. Most recently, with some information coming from some bee breeders down in Florida, they're telling me lemon juice works extremely well, and I think if we can slam some money towards that to save that $130 a bottle versus $1.25 for a quart of lemon juice. As I said, the research portion of it, I understand there's a research lab out in the Midwest that there's some talk of closing, and at this time in the game, I think closing a research lab would be just extremely detrimental to the ag industry and specifically the beekeeper. Fuel is one of my largest expenses, and I would urge you to support the Keystone. Just we need some relief. And my last is this fall in November there was 18,000 barrels of honey that were confiscated by ICE that was being imported from China. And those 18,000 barrels of honey represents 1,170,000 pounds, or $22 million worth of honey that was coming in mislabeled under juice, and then when it came back here, when it got through customs, it was relabeled as honey, going out to whatever packer there was out there. I don't think they've gotten to the bottom of it yet. One of the questions I got is, what happens to that honey? Does it get stopped right there and everybody from the importer back to the producer lose? And I think if that was to happen 4 or 5 times, somebody would say, you know what, this has cost me too much money. And what happens to it after it's here? How does it get destroyed? Or does it get destroyed? Or where does it go? It just vanished into thin air. Those would be the important topics that are, or a few of the important topics that are looking at beekeepers. Protecting our markets, research, in keeping us in the Farm Bill. I lost 400 hives of bees last year due to colony collapse, and it's tipped my operation upside down. And not that ELAP portion that I get it amounts to $36 a hive, but I've lost the production off in it. I've lost everything that goes along with it. It amounts to a very, very small dollar back in my pocket just to throw back into the operation to rebuild. With that being said, I hope to see you again soon. And I've got your jar of honey this time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh,
Excuse me, would you do me a favor? Would you give your email address to Steve?
Sure.
We'll look up that question on the seized honey and find out what the disposition is and also what the impact is downstream in that process.
I've got
If you've got the info, give it to Steve with your email address, and we'll take a look at that next week.
Thank you very much, Ted. And again, my apologies if I don't say the name exactly correctly. Patrick Prayer from Lisbon on Protection.
Patrick Green, that's an Irish name.
Sorry.
I guess I met Farmer a long time ago. Local farmer, Huron Indian blood. French came here in 1740, Irish 1850, Scotsman shortly after that. My idea of federal government is to protect the people. I live in New York State, and one of my biggest problems is the encroachment of my land taxes. This state has apparently been taken. George Meany said in the early 60s, if we allowed the civil service unions to unionize, not only would they hold the politicians, but the taxpayers hostage. This has come to fruition in New York. St. Lawrence County, we have negotiations with the CSEA unions, and the taxpayer side is stacked with union affiliates, people who got people working, and on, and our taxes keep going up. And on the term of taxes, I hear a lot of people asking for funding. All I want is protection. When these corporate dairies can come in with inflated money from their grants, and they can push up the price of farmland, smaller producers like me suffer, which is also goes with the immigration issue. We have a problem here. I gave you a piece of paper on the back of it. I put in an ad in the paper. I ran it for 3 or 4 days, and I got 54 names of local people that wanted to milk cows, and nothing. I gave it to county legislators. I passed it around. Nothing came from it. They claim that the people aren't here to work, but they are here to work. We have another thing happening in Augsburg. The Communist Chinese have moved in, a man named James Ma. I found out that Ma really isn't a name. It's a title that means teacher of English. They've come in with their inflated money that they've got from our manufacturing over the years. I'm going to have to compete. If they go into farming, that's going to be another competition I'm going to have to go against in order to pay my taxes. I'd like to say something about food stamps. I know that's the majority of this farm bill. Food stamps, you shouldn't, I don't know, I know the power, the lobbying power of the bottling companies, but one should not be able to take a food stamp and buy anything but nutritious food. You shouldn't be able to buy soda pop or candy or anything like that. It should be milk and juice and things. And the food that are bought with federal food stamps should not be imported food. It should be food that's made right here in the good old USA. This would help with the health bill, and our problems with obesity and all these things could be handled if food stamps were properly given out where they couldn't buy junk. It used to be in the early 60s, I remember we got food surplus, canned meat, wheat or flour, rice and different things, and the people actually had to take it and prepare it. And there was no junk, and it was a good thing. People ate a lot better. I'm also concerned with, there seems to be a breakdown in the political process in my state. My county legislators, through things like the IDA, who go out and give away my tax base for certain things, and the involvement of academia in the IDA and this economic development has just about taken the power from my county legislators. All they are is a rubber stamp. And I have one question, and that is, does a county that is in open rebellion with the federal government, refusal to enforce the Federal Immigration and Naturality Act, have the moral or legal authority to levy a tax? I put the 14th Amendment on the top, came after the Civil War. I think this is a 14th Amendment, an issue to do with the federal government. If we refuse to enforce the federal laws, are we really a government? Do we have the authority to levy a tax?
Well,
and it's both time and finish your statements, then I'm sure the Congressman.
Pardon?
The Congressman will respond, but we'd like you to finish up.
Thank you very much.
the question that you're posing in terms of whether or not the county has the ability to tax because you indicate it's not enforcing immigration law. First of all, the county is not the jurisdiction in charge of enforcing the immigration law. That is up to the federal government, and I think you've probably seen any number of Homeland Security vehicles and Border Patrol vehicles driving around the county.
Yes, I've called them and they had no response.
But the county's ability to levy taxes devolves from the state constitution, not from the federal constitution.
Well, when we went into the Civil War, wasn't that because the states wouldn't enforce the federal laws?
That may have been one of the reasons, wasn't the only one, but the power to tax that resides in St. Lawrence County comes out of, in effect, the state constitution.
And the state doesn't enforce it either, the federal laws.
Well, again, I think we may disagree as to who has the obligation to do that.
So states don't have to enforce federal law.
Well, it depends. You specifically talked about immigration.
That's right.
And I'm saying to you that's a federal obligation, not a state obligation.
And we do live in a being right on a border. I think some of those become much more complicated issues for us. Thank you, Peter. Dean, again, my apologies on getting your name correctly. Laubscher from Potsdam.
Hi, how are you?
My name's Dean Laubscher. I'm from Potsdam. First of all, I'd like to applaud these small family farmers. They're obviously becoming the minority. I'm not a farmer, but I have a vested interest in the Farm Bill. I have to eat, so I have no choice in that. So with that in mind...
Me too.
With that in mind, genetically modified crops are gaining notoriety and creating controversy within the agricultural consumer realm. There are numerous credible studies citing that genetically modified crops utilizing Roundup and other herbicides and pesticides are drastically altering our agricultural landscape in many adverse ways. Large agribusiness such as Monsanto are bringing lawsuits against small family farms and organic farmers, to name a few, for patent infringement, citing cross-contamination as issue. Normally, the small farmer loses, as well as the consumer in these matters. Currently, coalitions of organic farmers are beginning to fight back. And in a lawsuit against lawsuits, these coalitions are trying to curtail giant agribusiness practice of suing them for patent violations that the farmers claim were completely unintentional. According to the farmers, genetically modified crops, corn for example, can find their way into the organic farm crops. For the farmers, this is a contamination. After all, the selling point of their product is that it is not a genetically modified organism, or GMO, and the presence of genetic modification can threaten its organic status. These farmers say that Monsanto seeds find their way into their crops due to wind, cross-pollination, or transfer by animals. Monsanto argues that it does not pursue farmers who inadvertently acquire Monsanto seeds, but according to LA Times article, the operating definition of inadvertent gives the benefit of doubt and then some to Monsanto. In other words, it's the responsibility of the non-GMO farmer to keep the GMO off his farm. There's litigation already underway, with Judge Naomi Buchwald hearing oral arguments in OSGA TA et al. Versus Monsanto on January 31st in Federal District Court in New York City. The plaintiffs are a group of 83 farmers and groups, accounting for as much as 25% of the nation's organic farmers. Buchwald said she intends to deliver her judgment by the end of March. And in addition, these large companies are not wanting to label their food products as genetically modified. My question is, do you support labeling of GMOs? And if so, what will you do to make sure this is written into the upcoming Farm Bill, and also to protect these coalitions of organic farmers and small farmers against these big agribusiness such as Monsanto? Thank you.
Thank you. I will tell you that I think there should be transparency in terms of the content of food, whether it's GMO or otherwise. and I'm supportive of that kind of legislation. Whether or not that will actually come up in this farm bill as opposed to through FDA legislation, that I'm not positive of as I sit here. But if you, again, give your information to Steve, we'll get back to you with an answer on that.
Thank you. We now have Gary Kennitz from DeKalb.
Hello. It's
Hi.
Gary Kennitz. Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Good to see you again.
Yes, likewise. I made the point in just the topic of my question of the National Farmers Union, and the reason being, I don't know if you're aware of their endorsement of the Glass-Steagall bill, the HR 1489 that I'd asked you about previously. Yep. And I mean, just to mention the National Teachers Union as well. And this is, I think, an overriding issue in, it's not specific to the Farm Bill. I'm, not trying to pretend it is. The thing is that without a general turnaround in the overall economic situation, certainly the issues the Farm Bill is attempting to address become vastly more difficult. I mean, I grew up around here watching, 30 to 60 cow dairies go out of business. And, even, I know many of the people here have these, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 cow dairies, and that's fine. I mean, we need massive food production, milk production, and so forth. But the issue of supporting and backing the small farms isn't going to function without a functioning economy overall. There's no way that's really going to occur without addressing the financial speculation of Wall Street, the giveaway programs that are going to these Wall Street speculators, separating the commercial banking from the investment banking, so that loans and grants and these types of programs can actually function effectively. I'm very impressed with all the comments of people here as to the particulars as to what needs to be done in the Farm Bill, and very much support most of what has been said on that. But we need to address this other issue. With those endorsements coming from the farmers union, from the teachers unions, national support, I can't grasp any reason, which, since you've expressed already your understanding of why Glass-Steagall could work as a policy, any reluctance to endorse it wholeheartedly. I mean, last time you made the point of you didn't think it would get enough support to pass. I think that's irrelevant. The support comes from you, and I think you need to put that support forward for Glass-Steagall. As I said before, it would help to have Mr. Obama moved out of the way with the 25th Amendment or whatever it takes to do that, because he's clearly dragging his feet on that, not to mention threatening to get us into all kinds of wars. But on the Glass-Steagall issue, I think you should really come out in support of that, so that we can move forward and get to work rebuilding our country.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now have I have a hunch it's not a rebuttal, but it may be related. Lena Kennitz from DeKalb.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you again.
Yes, it's Lena Kennitz, and we're beginning farmers in DeKalb. Good to see you as well. I essentially have the same remarks, but I would like to just point out the immediacy of the war danger that is being pushed is also of critical importance in overarching any discussion we have on these critical issues of food security, national security, and the issue of speculation on the financial markets, on commodities markets affecting local farmers. You can't address without the Glass-Steagall and the fact that what's driving this insanity for war is the breakdown of the financial system globally, what I would call the British and Wall Street system. And as long as it's evident that to the extent we have a president who is under complete British influence on the issue of regime change around the world, you know, right now with Syria, you know, and Russia and China have stated their complete opposition to armed forces there, that there has to be a long-ranging diplomatic dialogue process to solve these issues, that this president is in conflict with U.S. interests and the push for war on Iran as well, and that he is impeachable on the grounds of what he's already done in other situations. People can go to Lyndon LaRouche's website, larouchepac.com, and you know, get abreast of these issues. But it is the American people that are going to have to respond on this level as well as the importance of all the things that have been said regarding specifically the Farm Bill, which again I wholeheartedly endorse. And I would urge you, given you know the National Farmers Union has said Glass-Steagall is imperative to the survival of the farmers in this country. So there's really no reason to drag your feet on this. We've got 57 other endorsers. Maria Cantwell has just made a statement in the Senate, who had initially started the McCain-Cantwell Glass-Steagall banking bill. She's now made a statement yesterday on the Senate floor, endorsing this again. So that's primarily it. I want to know what you are going to do to back this kind of reform. We can't have speculation driving our economy. And, you know, there's no solution except that the British are going to push for more wars and continuously try to avert, or divert, rather, from the immediacy of a reform of the economic system.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We've had this discussion before, as you know, and my view largely remains the same. I don't disagree that we have risk in the system. I don't think that Dodd-Frank addressed that. I do not believe that Glass-Steagall has any legs in the Congress, and I think laying the blame, if you will, on the president for that is probably not appropriate, because the Congress controls that process, and it simply does not have any legs there.
Well, that takes us to the end of the speaker list, and I've gotten the signal that I believe the Congressman probably has many other things on his schedule for the rest of the day. So we will be wrapping up at this time. The League of Women Voters and our co-sponsors, thank you for coming, especially on today. What a real moment of courage to get out of the roads today. Let me remind you that if you have any further comments or follow-up comments, they can be sent to the Congressman's office. Ah, Steve, yes. That's wonderful. And I was going to say you could also hand things over to this gentleman here because he will take written comments as well. The community members and organizations who have been part of this event, thank you, Congressman Owens, for being with us today. Everyone, thank you for being part of this event. Please get home safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.